morning, my young friends. Today we're going to talk more about reading. If you resisted your innate tick-tock instinct, you know that I've already given you 3 excellent pieces of advice.
Pay attention to the headings. Pay attention to the topic sentences. Stop at the end of each heading and make sure you know what it says.
Splendid! In this lesson, we're going to begin thinking about ways you can anticipate, as you're reading, the questions that your professor might ask. First, let's review the 7 types of questions we've been discussing.
List, define, characterize, compare and contrast, analyze, evaluate, discuss. The first one is pretty easy. You can anticipate a list question if under a particular heading you find important things listed. One characteristic of the umble path is. We see another characteristic in. The umble path also boasts a third characteristic.
But what might lead us to anticipate a define question, a characterize question, a compare and contrast question? By way of going about that, let's think of 2 headings from our recent reading assignment.
Little me, big me.
If you're fluent in professor speak, you can see these coming a mile away.
Define little me. Define big me. Characterize little me. Characterize big me. Compare and contrast little me and big me.
Okay, if you don't want to flunk this course before first frost, listen up. None of these questions means write some stuff about little me and big me. Nobody wants your stuff. They want answers to the questions that they asked. So let's give them some.
If someone asks a define question, you have to give a definition. If you don't know what that means, grasshopper, step on your dang cell phone, go back and watch the lesson we did last week and get with the blessed program. First, you have to figure out the class or group to which either of these belongs. Then you have to figure out how it's different from everything else in that class or group. At the end of the opening heading of this chapter, we find this sentence. It occurred to me that this shift might symbolize a shift in culture, a shift from a culture of self-effacement that says, nobody's better than me, but I'm no better than anyone else, to a culture of self-promotion that says, recognize my accomplishments. I'm pretty special. This gives us the differences, self-effacement versus self-promotion, but it doesn't give us the class or group. However, tucked away in a topic sentence, a few paragraphs into the little me heading, we strike gold. The social code was embodied in the self-effacing style of actors like Gregory Peck or Gary Cooper, or the character Joe Friday on Dragnet. This should catch your eye because we see one of our differences linked to a group. Social code. If we're asked to define little me, then, here's a great topic sentence for our answer. Little me is a social code that emphasizes self-effacement. If we're asked to define big me, here's how we might start. Big me is a social code that emphasizes self-promotion. But what about characterization? Characterize little me. Characterize big me. Characterization questions ask for adjectives. We've already identified the essential difference between these two. All we have to do now is to turn that noun into an adjective. Little me is self-effacing. Big me is self-promoting. And compare and contrast? Well, these questions are similar to definition questions. Instead of class and differences, we have to identify similarities and differences. But since it's similarities that constitute a class or group, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Little me and big me are social codes. Little me emphasizes self-effacement. Big me emphasizes self-promotion. Of course, if we want to sound more like college students, we'll put all that in a single sentence. Little me and big me are social codes that emphasize self-effacement and self-promotion, respectively.
That leaves analyze, evaluate, and discuss. Evaluate questions, we know, are basically analyze questions with numbers. And discuss questions are the most general type, leaving lots of leeway in which to frame an answer. When in doubt, then, anticipate, analyze questions. And so that this video doesn't run longer than Game of Thrones, that's what we're going to do with the remaining headings in our assignment.
Here are the first 6 topic sentences. As years went by and work on this book continued, my thoughts returned to that episode of Command Performance. There was something aesthetically beautiful about the self-effacement the people on the program displayed. There was something intellectually impressive about that sort of humility, too. This is the way humility leads to wisdom. The people we think are wise have, to some degree, overcome the biases and overconfident tendencies that are infused in our nature. Finally, there is something morally impressive about humility.
Although the section is a good deal longer, I've stopped here because of one word. Finally. Words like that are Professor Nip because they signal to anyone who's paying attention that the writer is concluding a series of points. The point here is that there's something morally impressive about humility. So let's look back now and see whether we can find similar statements.
Three sentences begin, "There is something," or "there was something." In each instance, these sentences are followed by an adjective modified by an adverb. Aesthetically beautiful, intellectually impressive, morally impressive.
Professors love things like this because they allow us to ask questions the answers to which should be obvious. But how do we frame this as an analyze question? Well, these three things are adjectives. And adjectives, we should recall, are the answer to characterize questions.
So here goes. Analyze Brooks's notion of the humble path, noting three qualities that characterize it. Or, since characteristic is characterized as a noun, I could ask this. Analyze Brooks's notion of the humble path, noting three of its most compelling characteristics. But let's keep going. Today, many of us see our life through the metaphor of a journey through the external world and up the ladder of success. Truly humble people also use that journey metaphor to describe their own lives. For people of this sort, the external drama up the ladder of success is important, but the inner struggle against their own weaknesses is the central drama of life. Truly humble people are engaged in a great effort to magnify what is best in themselves and defeat what is worst, to become strong in the weak places. This self-centeredness leads in several unfortunate directions. Some perversity in our nature leads us to put lower loves above higher loves. But we often put our loves out of order. Okay, all of these topic sentences deal with the journey as a metaphor. As a result, this is fair game. Analyze Brooks's notion of the humble path, noting how the journey for Adam 2 differs from that of Adam 1. If we go further, we come to this. People who are humble about their own nature are moral realists. You see evidence of the inner struggle in such people's journals. I have a friend who spends a few moments in bed at night reviewing the mistakes of his day. Each night he catalogs the errors. People who live this way believe that character is not innate or automatic. This portion of the section headed The Humble Path deals with moral realism. Only the topic sentence doesn't define it. So let's read further. People who are humble about their own nature are moral realists. Moral realists are aware that we are all built from crooked timber, from Immanuel Kant's famous line, Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. People in this crooked timber school of humanity have an acute awareness of their own flaws and believe that character is built in the struggle against their own weaknesses. Here's an analyze question that asks for this information. Analyze moral realism, defining the crooked timber tradition and noting how it shapes the lives of people who adhere to it. One last go. Once again, I've read past the topic sentence where it didn't seem sufficiently clear. Now, I have used the words struggle and fight in the previous passages, but it's a mistake to think that the moral struggle against internal weakness is a struggle the way a war is a struggle, or the way a boxing match is a struggle, filled with clash of arms and violence and self-aggression. Moreover, the struggle against the weaknesses in yourself is never a solitary struggle. There's something democratic about life viewed in this way. Easier than shooting fish in a barrel. Analyze the struggle of moral realists.
For what it's worth, questions like these don't generally occur on assignments which you are asked to respond entirely from memory. Rather, professors that ask questions like these will probably do so on out-of-class assignments or on timed assignments in class that allow you to consult your book but give you only a relatively brief time in which to do so. Still, if you have 20 minutes to answer one of these questions, and you've wasted 10 trying to figure out what the answer is, you're probably gonna be doo-doo out of luck. On the other hand, if you have anticipated the question, you can answer it fully and leave early. Which do you see as the wiser approach, Grasshopper?